This is Corinne.
And this is Ayani.
And you're listening to Sex, Love, Literature, a pop culture podcast where we take a semi-scholarly look at why
and how
the sex stuff in media matters.
Part 2 of our series opens up with a sports metaphor for some reason as we return to R.F. Kuang's fantasy novel, Katabasis.
In the first of our spoiler-filled episodes, we grumble about Alice and Peter as academic types with whom we are quite familiar, and, spoiler, we don't like them.
If any of our grad school friends are listening, we swear we are not talking about you.
We also consider Kuang's construction of hell as a university, but with the pretty clear argument that salvation is definitely not a dissertation.
As a bit of a content warning, Katabasis deals with abuse and suicidal ideation. Because these themes are pretty central to the novel, we won't be able to provide specific time codes for when it comes up in our own discussion, but wanted to be sure you knew going in.
Would you also like to critique Kuang's critique of the inside baseball of academia? Let us know on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Tumblr at Sex Love Lit Podcast.
Don't forget to subscribe to and rate our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms.
All right, let's go. Hello, SLL listeners. Welcome back to SLL. We are here with our spoiler-filled thoughts on Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. Yeah.
So, as a reminder, this is a text that is thinking a lot about the academy, about academia, and as such, our academic snootiness might snip out a little bit. Not snip out, might slip out a little bit. So just be forewarned that this, even though this is a semi-academic podcast, that we might get a little more academic than we usually do in our conversation today. Yeah. Corinne is like nodding very slowly.
We're critiquing the inside baseball, but we also we know how to play inside baseball, so.
Yeah. Which is such an interesting sports metaphor. Like, what is inside baseball actually? Why? Did it come from baseball in
sports?
Into doors? Like, why?
I don't live with sports guy anymore. I can't ask him.
Okay, I'll ask my mother-in-law. But baseball is like her one sport that she does not watch, except for Little League. Which I accept because the children are adorable.
Yeah, my former roommate actually watches many sports, but does not often watch baseball because he thinks it's boring on television and that there are too many games.
Well, hey, there you go. Sums it up. But also it's outside, so I don't know. All right. Doesn't matter. That's not what the conversation is about today.
we cannot play inside baseball when it comes to actual baseball. Anyway, speaking of nonsense. All right, we are going to open, as we normally do, with our favorite segment, What's Sparking Joy? Hey, honey, what is What's Sparking Joy?
So What's Sparking Joy is a quick moment where we talk about something we are watching, reading, or listening to that is sparking joy for us. But because this is a second-parter, we are not going to do our usual What's Sparking Joy, in which we
dwell.
Yeah, dwell is a good word for it. And instead are going to do a rapid-fire round where we talk about a musical artist or group that is sparking joy for us right now. So, Corinne, who's sparking joy for you?
A group that is sparking joy for me is the Korean band that is kind of K-pop adjacent and flying. That is capital N period flying.
But the flying is lowercase.
But I had the chance to see them in concert. I believe it was in July. It was so fun. Their music was so fun. They were so fun. They were so kinetic and energetic on stage. Their music is bop. I love having it on. I like a lot of their songs. And also just I have so many very concrete memories of the concert. They were really, really good at like coaching audience participation almost.
Oh, interesting.
Well, it's like they didn't expect the people there to necessarily all already be their fans and know the songs. So they like gave you the information that you needed to be able to like sing along with the chorus or do like a call and refrain and that sort of thing. And they were just so fun. So I was not a fan when I went. I went because the concert venue was a mile from my house. And the ticket was not that much money. But I left like very much a fan. And that might end up being my concert of the year. So, and flying, sparking joy for me.
Ooh, we should add concert of the year to our 2025 roundup for January.
Yeah.
Good
idea.
idea.
How many concerts have you been to?
Less than you, but like...
Yeah, well, I've turned that into my personality, so...
Yeah. But I will, by the end of this month, have gone to at least 2. I'll just have to remember what the other ones were that I've gone to this year.
All right, well, Ayani, what musical act is sparking joy for you?
So, I had quite a few choices, actually, but I'm going to go with Hayley Williams. She dropped a surprise album earlier this year. I want to say maybe in like April. That could be wrong. I don't remember exactly. But what she did is that like on some random website, it might have been her website actually, but on just a website on the interwebs, she dropped 19 new singles that were just online and spread via word of mouth. And then multiple days later, not like the next day, like they were only available on the website and then like only available in a Google Drive. So very kind of guerrilla marketing kind of a thing. But then over a couple of days, they moved to streaming and it was only a series of like it was just the 19 singles, right? But it turns out that that was actually a new album release that she put together and released recently that also includes one additional single that was not included with the like random drop. And I've been really liking it a lot. The vibes are good. It is, if you are a Paramore listener, it is not exactly Paramore vibes, right? It is more, not acoustic-y, right? But a little bit more mellow, a little bit more somber, a little bit more maudlin. Not all of the songs are, but some of them are. And yeah, I just really like the different kind of stories that she's telling in these individual songs. One of which I think is about a antidepressant that I don't remember. Mirtazapine?
Girl, I don't know. I only know about Lexapro.
No, mirtazapine is the name of the song.
Okay.
I just don't know if it's an antidepressant. But what it is it's a bop. It's a great song. And yeah, so Hayley Williams is sparking a lot of joy for me. It's one of those where right now, if I don't know what I want to listen to, and it's kind of a gray day or a slower day, I'm just gonna put on some Hayley Williams. So I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up as one of my top artists for the year since we are in October.
All right.
Cool.
All right, well, on that note then, I guess let's dive right into it. So if you do need context for Katabasis, go back and listen to our first episode where we do give the context for Alice and Peter and the context and all of that. And we will give some context as we go, but all right. Let's talk about Alice.
Oh boy, let's get started. So Alice is a character, and I don't mean that because she's a character in a novel. I mean that
character parentheses derogatory.
Yeah, oh, yeah. She is an interesting bird, and I was struck by how much I would not have liked her if we were in graduate school together. Like,
yeah, you were texting me that before I even started the book. You were like, I don't know about her.
And it's not that she's not a compelling character. And we have said this before, that likability is not like the core of what makes an interesting or worthwhile or whatever character. I think Alice was an interesting perspective to approach the world of Katabasis and to be moving through. But like, and this is where the inside baseball already begins, but like she reminds me of a lot of the worst things about like some academics that I have come to know.
Mm-hmm. Say more on that.
So Alice is someone who is very, at the start, very confident about her own intelligence and her own abilities. It is not that she doesn't work hard, right? But it is that she kind of thinks herself above those around her because of the kind of work output that she does. And it is the value that she places in that sense of superiority over other people, and how nothing else really matters in the face of her trying to kind of climb the academic ladder, right?
Yeah, she's totally bought into the prestige market in academia. Like, and she thinks, I don't mean this as an attack necessarily, because everyone who gets a PhD, not literally everyone, but mostly, you have to think you're pretty smart, and you have to have sometimes in your life thought that you're the smartest person in the room. It takes another level to get to where Alice is, where it's not just that she wants to get a PhD at a prestigious school. She wants to get it at the most prestigious school for her program with the most prestigious advisor. And she thinks she is so special that even though she is warned many times by many people that Dr. Jacob Grimes sucks.
This man's last name is Grimes. Like, it's on the tin.
Okay, well, that's not his fault.
I know. But it is a fantasy novel. It's fiction.
Yes.
And his last name is Grimes. Come on, girly.
Yeah.
Alice doesn't know she's in a novel. It's fine. Please continue.
But it matters here. We're going to have to think more deeply about gender and the gender dynamics.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Dr. Jacob Grimes is abusive, and is specifically abusive towards women. And there are women who will hear, via the Whisper Network, something about a particular man, and because of the prestige that being attached to him will give her, will choose to work with him anyway.
Right.
Because she is special, and she will not fall prey to whatever that was that other girl's problem.
Right.
That won't be her problem.
And I will say the reason that I did not think that we would get along with Alice was not particularly her decision to work with her advisor, but more how she placed herself above everyone.
Yeah, she really does believe that she is more, not just that she's more special than everyone else because she's getting her PhD at Cambridge, although that is true, but also that she is working with Dr. Grimes at Cambridge. She's also more special than everyone else at Cambridge.
Right, exactly. And so, like, I have met people who I've been like, wow, you're smarter than me. That's amazing. But they don't look down on you in that place of intelligence, right? And it was the looking down of the nose and the sense of special superiority to Alice that makes her fascinating, right? A fascinating character to follow, but also not somebody that you would want to stay up late nights with in the library working on your papers.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, and this is where we're going to get a little inside baseball. I think Ayani and I are also particularly sensitive to snobbery in the academy because we both specialize in fields that are often marginalized and not taken seriously within the academy. I work in children's literature. I work in fantasy. I work in two areas that many departments do not have a tenure line for because they do not think it is worthy of study. So people in these prestigious quote-unquote programs don't think that what I do matters.
Right.
So I do come into this with a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah, and I guess it is important to kind of acknowledge our own baggage that we bring, right? But also, I will say, I don't think Kuang was making Alice likable. I don't think that was the goal, right?
I don't think we're supposed to like Alice.
Right. I just think that Corinne and I in particular don't like her for specific reasons. But I do want to acknowledge that this is not just like, oh, we're, miffed by this character. But I think Kuang is very specifically trying to point to a specific kind of academic personality in her crafting of Alice and how that kind of personality makes decisions and moves through the academic world, if that makes sense.
Something else that I think, so what I wrote on the outline is like, I did not like her, but I understood why she was the way she was.
Speak on that.
And I'm wondering, spoilers, but as we go through the novel, we learn about all of the particular ways that Alice suffered abuse at the hands of Dr. Grimes.
Right.
And I wonder if part of how so I study consent, I study sexual assault, I study rape culture,
Right.
I study those things specifically in fantasy. So I am reading this in a particular way. But something that I think is interesting here is that I did not like Alice, but I made the firm decision, because of how I read these things, to decide it does not matter if I don't like Alice. She did not deserve to be treated this way, to experience this.
Absolutely.
And that in and of itself is often a kind of commentary on rape culture, because we often have the compulsion almost, or like as a society, we want someone to be sympathetic. We want them to be like the quote unquote perfect victim. And it's not that people like think, oh, I don't like her, therefore she deserved to be raped.
Right.
It's not that conscious. But like if we think, for example, about like the trial of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, a lot of like society turned against Amber Heard because she kind of sucks in a lot of ways. I, however, do not care that she sucks. She doesn't deserve whatever allegedly happened to her at the hands of Johnny Depp. But you have to be sympathetic for the public to be on your side.
Yeah.
And I think it matters here that Alice is not sympathetic. But because I'm aware of that pattern, I very consciously was like, I do not care that I don't like Alice. I am going to sympathize with her anyway.
Interesting. So I did not know exactly what kind of abuse Alice was going to have suffered at the hands of Grimes. And I think what's important here is there's multiple, but there are two very big instances that stand out to me. And one, do we want to talk? I don't really want to talk about them right now, because right now I think we're just thinking about Alice. But one in which she made the decision to allow Dr. Grimes. Can we just call him Jacob? We don't have to give him like honor.
We don't have to put respect on his name.
Thank you. Or her advisor. We'll go with that. To allow,
we can call him that asshole.
Yeah, that dick to experiment on her magically, on her body, right? Which caused her, and we'll talk more about this in more detail, I think, a little bit later in the episode, but that experiment has caused her that from that moment on, she cannot forget things. She just constantly is remembering every little thing that happened, which is a particular kind of violation in that he did this experiment that, you shouldn't be experimenting on human beings, right? Like that's the rules.
I read this while I was like teaching why getting IRB approval matters to my seniors, and was like, he did not get IRB approval for this study.
Get IRB approval. Wait. Just for context, IRB, I don't know. It's institutional research something, right?
I don't know.
But pretty much what it is it is a kind of approval you need to get from your university in order to do any experimentation or any publishing that involves human subjects.
I think you even have to get it a lot of the time for you do have to still also get approval for animal subjects.
Sure.
To justify whatever, like the results of your research, the potential results of your research have to justify whatever harm you might be causing living beings.
Right. So since Corinne and I are both humanists, we are not often doing experiments on animals.
No.
Right? So more often than not.
Never, in fact.
Right. You know, well, sometimes I'd be like, will Ghost eat this chicken? But I don't need an
Yeah, but you're not going to publish on that.
Not outside of Blue Sky, right? But so a lot of our IRB approval, if we were going to do something, has to do with like qualitative data. So, you know, are you publishing things that students wrote in a classroom? Are you asking them to reflect on their experiences? That kind of stuff you'd still have to, if you were going to publish it, if it was going to be out there, you need to get IRB for it. So needless to say, Jacob did not get IRB approval for doing dangerous magical experiments on Alice that have drastically changed the way she has to move through the world. And have caused a lot of health problems for her. And I thought that was going to be the assault, right? However, there is also a moment where like Grimy Grimes tries to put the moves on her, because apparently this is something that he does with his graduate students as well. So, and because I want you to be able to like talk about this fully, I think we should come back to thinking about these abuses in our larger conversation of like abuses of the academy, right? But because I was not expecting that one to happen, because I thought
you thought the tattoo was it.
I didn't feel like I had to coach myself into being sympathetic for Alice. I was already like, neither of these things should have happened. Like, I was already like, he's a dick. He shouldn't have done that to you. But then on top of that, then he tries to put the moves on you. It's like, fuck this guy, bro. You know, I don't have to like Alice to know that she should not be treated this way, right? If one of the other girls had smacked her because she was kind of an asshole, well, that's different, you know. But these very particular things, you know, her bad, and I think, again, like you're saying, Kuang is doing this very deliberately, her bad behavior, and I'm putting quotes around that.
She's not a girl's girl.
No, she is not a girl's girl. But that does not mean that she should be marked in these ways, you know? And that's also something, I mean, I don't want to leave Alice just yet, but like when we talk about Peter, that's something that I think comes up as well. So something that I wasn't quite sure about, right, is if I was completely convinced by her realizations about herself on the journey to hell, or through hell, I should say. Because, I guess for a little bit of context, the story moves Alice and her rival Peter through the different kingdoms, different courts of hell, levels, pride, lust, you know, based after the seven deadly sins, right? And through a lot of that journey, Alice has a single focus of getting Grimes back, and she will do anything to do that.
Also, for context here, in case people aren't familiar with like academia, the ostensible reason that Alice wants and Peter both want to get Grimes back is they will not be able to get tenure track jobs without a letter from Grimes, or a letter of recommendation as part of their job application for tenure track positions.
And very specifically, because one of the things that was raised is, couldn't they, get another advisor? And it's not just that any advisor will do, but a letter from Grimes because of his position in the academy and the larger academic network gets you in the door. So it's the prestige of his letter specifically that will get you a job.
And this is part of like why I think it matters a little bit that it's set in the 80s-ish. Is that is like the era of your advisor calls so-and-so at University of Michigan or wherever to say, oh, hey, my advisee is graduating. You should hire them. And then they do, because that's the spot for the Harvard grad.
Right.
And we both have and have not left those days, I will say, in the present.
Yeah, it is. I think we are in a particularly difficult moment right now, and academia is going to be going through a lot of changes in the coming months, years, right? Because there's a lot of shit, and we don't have to get into all of that right now, because that is both of our daily lives.
So I will say there is still a way in which getting your degree from Harvard or from Cambridge, I guess, to keep it on the book, keep it connected to the text.
Oh yes,
Your degree from Cambridge won't get you the job anymore, but it will get you an interview,
right?
Even if you have no publications. I'm definitely not thinking of anyone specific in this moment.
Oop. Don't get me started, though, on, like, the culture of publications and how there are grad students now that are coming out with more publications than people who have been in their, like, tenure lines for years.
I'm sure I've never been interviewed by people on a search committee with fewer publications than me. That's never happened.
No.
Couldn't even imagine it.
Alice. I lost the context. Hell journey. Okay. All right.
Yeah, why it matters that they get Grimes back. He's their golden ticket.
Thank you. Because I was like, my brain was spiraling in a whole nother direction. So Alice goes on this journey, right? Through a lot of it, she makes a lot of, let's say, not so nice decisions that impact the people around her in a variety of different ways, including characters that they meet in hell, right? But by the end of it, it seems, well, actually, changing gears, instead of thinking about Alice's journey and if we find her compelling, let's talk about Peter, right? Because I think we need to do a little bit more grounding before we can really think about, like, the overarching conversation of the story, right? Peter's interesting. And I'm really curious what you think about him, because he's a character that we get largely through Alice's perspective for most of the novel. And then we get a flashback piece that is from Peter's perspective that tells us all about his life and his struggles. He has Crohn's disease, which causes him to have a variety of different intestinal and bowel issues. But he's also somebody that has been groomed from a very young age to kind of take on the life of an academic, right? The life of the mind. So what do you think about Peter? What are your thoughts on him?
So spoiler, Peter ends up being Alice's love interest. And I did not actually see that coming. Because perhaps because of my own biases, did not like Peter.
Oh.
I did not like that Peter, had it so easy. And I think I was convinced by Alice's point of view here, that I was like, this guy has not had to work. Well, convinced by Alice, convinced by Peter's own facade. It's like, right. In the way that, reading it, I know Alice, I know Peter. I know that guy who, slides on through on his own supposed brilliance, but also on, reputation and connections, and, he doesn't have to work quite as hard as anyone else and gets the gold star anyway. And I don't like that guy.
Yet another chip on the shoulder.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
So I do think, as you were saying, I was along for Alice's ride, right? I was kind of like, what is this guy's deal, actually? And I think also because of the kinds of critiques I know Kuang was making, I was more readily convinced that Peter was kind of a know-it-all jerk, you know?
I was primed to see him that way. There are a million Peters in the Academy.
Right. And I think, this is, again, one of the reasons that I find this novel compelling, is that she kind of flips that on its head in a way that I wasn't expecting, but that I really appreciated. So we don't learn about the fact that Peter has Crohn's disease until that chapter that's from his perspective. And when it's coming just from Alice's perspective, as Corinne said, he just seems like this guy that skates on through, that he doesn't have to work as hard as everybody else.
And it's also it's that he's not reliable.
Right.
He's so charming and so cute in person.
In a British way.
And then he'll say, let's meet for dinner. And then he just won't show. Or, he won't show up for the lab he's supposed to TA. So Belinda does his grading. And stuff that, if he's not showing up because he's just sort of, I don't know, just dealing with these deep questions of magic, that's annoying. That I'm annoyed by that. But that guy gets away with that, which Peter learns. And the actual reason, and I wrote in our outline here, that Kuang seems to be suggesting that it's easier to be kind of a jerk in academia than to be openly disabled.
Which was an interesting twist.
And I find that argument convincing.
Ooh, I kind of want you to speak a little bit more on that. Oh, but there was something that I wanted to mention about Peter and people's acceptance of his, flippantness. Oh, I forgot what it was. I mean, he did give Belinda an apology gift afterwards, right? Oh, I remember. Little chip. We're coming back to chips on the shoulders. Something else about Peter that makes him interesting, because I do want to come back to your, easier to be a jerk statement. I want you to talk more about that. But he also is kind of, on the STEMmy side of magic studies, whereas Alice is more on the humanities side of magic studies. And the fact that Peter is the one whose work is more valued and seen as more rigorous, right, and more groundbreaking, whereas Alice is, and I know linguistics is, I'd put it in the humanities, even though they're kind of like a mathy humanities. When they put up those linguistics charts, I'm like, ooh, girl, that's complicated. But, There was a prestigious award that they were both up for, and it was kind of like, oh, Alice, you're a shoo-in because they won a linguist this year. It kind of felt like humanity's pandering almost.
Yeah.
So, like, there was that additional level of, like, oh, and he's also in STEM. So, you know, ooh. But back to being kind of a jerk that openly disabled. Do you want to speak on that a little bit more?
Yeah, like I think that academia is interesting and that in some ways it is more friendly to people with disabilities because you have a little bit more of an ability to set your own schedule. Like, it doesn't have the same 8 to 5 connotation. But also, like, if you can't show up for your classes, if you can't pull these all-nighters to get that research paper in, to get that article published, you can't do it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I don't know, that just... And also, like, Kuang, through, like, the way she describes Peter's perspective, there's, like, a way in which his experience seems to be that when people feel sorry for him, it sort of erases their respect for his intelligence. That, like, he couldn't be a serious magician if he also suffers from Crohn's disease and has to go to the hospital sometimes and has trouble with what he eats and all of this stuff. Yeah, I felt really bad for fictional Peter.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the question of pity here is really important because one of Peter's defining memories is from when he was a child and was kind of known as like the sickly boy. His parents threw him a birthday party, which he was really excited about. And he was excited that all these kids came and it was having a wonderful time until a little girl that was kind of like, well, of course we'd be there for you, Peter. You're so ill. And it completely changed his evening because he's like, they're only here because they pity me and I don't want to be pitied.
Yeah, it puts it casts a shadow over all of his relationships that he questions their authenticity.
Right.
If that's what they might be from. Yeah, someone who's not us should write a disability studies reading of this book.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, somebody that's definitely not us. We do know some really smart disability scholars, though, so you might want to take that up. Yeah. And I just found that so interesting. And Corinne and I were talking a little bit before the show about, like, how we would handle that situation, right? And I also wonder if this is a difference in how disability is discussed now versus perhaps how it was in the time of the novel, because there are some things that I would feel comfortable talking to, like, my advisor about, right? Or talking to my friends about, people that, like I think I couldn't this is also kind of an interesting gendered identity question, right? Like, I couldn't be a flake like that and be successful in the department, right?
Nope.
Nor do I think could you.
Nope.
You know, but I also don't think I would feel the need to hide that in the same way because of the environment of our department, right?
And our specific advisors.
Yeah, and our specific advisors and our friend group, you know.
Yeah.
Like, if you needed me to cover for you, I would do it. And we have covered for each other in the past, right? You know, so I think that was kind of an interesting thought experiment of, like, you know, if I had Crohn's disease, could I tell people about it in my department? And how does the structure of a department allow for that kind of disclosure?
Well, I think it's also interesting here that it's Crohn's disease. And
Yeah.
Because, like, it's, like, it involves having, like, a lot of diarrhea. It involves, like, the kind of illness that
Going to the
is
hospital.
very...
Yeah.
And it's, like, embarrassing to talk about. Or it's different than, like, oh, like, my head hurts. Or, like, some other kind... It's like, no, like, I cannot leave the toilet for days at a time.
Yeah.
And like, that's... There's a different degree of sort of, like, embarrassment to admitting that than, like... I mean... I don't know, obviously, like, socially constructed. I don't think that this is, like, legitimate, but, like...
Right. And also kind of the invisibility of it as well.
Yeah, like, you can look at him and think he's fine.
And also it sounds like, and this is one of the things that made me question the time period, right? They didn't really know about Crohn's disease, apparently, at the time. He didn't find out he had Crohn's disease until he was older, right? In undergrad. But I see commercials about Crohn's disease all the time, so I was like... Oh, he could just get one of the pills that they have. But no, this was the 1980s. They didn't have all of the pills that they do now to help people out.
Well, and also, like, people do, like, I I have a childhood acquaintance who, like, died from Crohn's disease.
Oh, goodness.
So, like, it's very serious, but also, like, also kind of funny because people think poop is funny. And it's just kind of like, yeah, that she chose Crohn's disease, I think, is interesting. But thinking about the implications of that particular disability is productive.
Yeah. And a deliberate choice, right? Because I do think a lot of the things she's doing are very deliberate because it is an quote-unquote invisible disability in a lot of ways until he's in the hospital.
And like, for Peter, it can be managed, but only for now, and there is always the threat that it will come back.
Yeah.
And that, like, the treatment that he's currently using, like, will eventually fail.
Right.
It's just a matter of when.
And I will say, actually, bringing Grimes back into this, when he did tell Grimes, eventually, Grimes looked down on him. It was not a happy circumstance at all. And I was thinking about, you had said earlier that Grimes mostly abused women, but also he abused Peter as well, right?
Yeah.
He did steal Peter's work.
He plagiarized Peter.
Yeah, when Peter, I think, was in the hospital after a particularly bad attack because Peter did not want to deal with the minor attack by going to the hospital. He wanted to push through and then, like, I think was in sepsis, if I remember correctly, or something.
Yeah.
You know, and then Grimes stole his work.
Yeah, and then when Peter couldn't push back on it in any way because Grimes's excuse to be like, well, you disappeared for these, like, you didn't contribute to this paper. Like, why would you be a co-author? You weren't here.
Because he was in the hospital, you dick. Yeah.
It is interesting the way that Peter hiding it allows him to succeed in academia in some ways. Like, it gets him to that level.
Yeah.
But it does hinder his interpersonal relationships.
Yes, it does.
So, like, I think, honestly, part of the reason that I didn't like Peter at first is because he is so confusing to Alice.
Yes.
And that she thought that they were very close because of this period of time, like, when they were working really closely together, when he was always, when they were, like, staying up late in the lab and, like, and had all these inside jokes and knew each other really well. And then he just stopped talking to her.
Yeah.
From her perspective with no explanation. And, like, we later learn he does feel bad about that, but also, like, again, I know that guy. And I don't like that guy anymore.
All right, so anything else you want to say about Peter?
I think he's less of a good parallel to Peter Pan than Alice is to Alice in Wonderland.
Interesting. I'll give you the space to speak on that if you want.
Oh, I'm just shading Kuang's reading of Peter Pan. I don't think it's very good.
Well, okay, on that note.
I should add, I have taught both Alice and Peter Pan. This is like, I do have a professional, like, scholarly opinion on these novels.
I know. I'm just teasing you. But also, like, one of the things that Corinne texted me when she was reading this, she was like, oh, shit, am I going to want to write about this novel? And hearing you talk about it, I'm like, you might.
We haven't even gotten to that part yet.
I mean, hearing you be like, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, rah! I'm like, well, there's a children's literature commentary, at the very least, that's taking place. So, something that is interesting about Katabasis, moving away from our main characters and thinking a bit about the location that they have spirited themselves away to, is that this version of hell is a university. And this is something that Kuang is doing on purpose. There's a quote that I pulled from the Harvard Crimson when she was doing a speech.
Aoni is incapable of saying Harvard normally. I'm apparently incapable of saying Yale normally. So.
I can say it normally when I speak to somebody that went to Harvard. I'm not that much of a dick. And also, the reason that I do this is very pretentious. So, like, it kind of makes me an asshole, but that's fine. The quote that Kuang has is...
Also, we stand a student newspaper.
Oh, we do. So. We do. We're in full support of student journalism. But Katabasis, started as this cute, silly adventure novel about, like, haha, academia is hell. And then I was writing it, and I was like, oh, no, academia is hell.
That, like, reminds me of when people are like, academia is a cult. Oh, no. Academia is a cult.
So it's really interesting being two people who have kind of done, like, as much school as you can do, right? We could go get more PhDs if we wanted, but we don't want to see hell depicted as a university, right? At least in the courts, in the levels that are more fully realized, and then in the final city that Alice visits. But I gotta tell you, I got a little more caught up thinking about what levels of this academic hell I would get stuck in than I thought I would reading the novel. So, like, for example, it's kind of organized by, like, the level of how bad the sin is, right? So the first sin after you make it over the Badlands, that's just like sand.
Purgatory.
Yeah, when you make it through Purgatory, and you get through the wall, the first level is pride, if I'm remembering correctly. Yes? And fun fact, everyone who dies, because this version of hell, there is no, like, heaven and hell. Everybody goes to hell. If you die, you go to hell.
Yeah, I feel like Dante's Inferno is maybe the most influential, but also, like, it is interesting. It also sets up very clearly that, like, nobody... So in Dante's Inferno,
right,
the level of hell you get in is the one you're in,
right,
forever. But in this book, I think the quote was, like, the math doesn't add up. Everybody eventually reincarnates.
Right.
Once you make it all the way through.
Right. And you get a transcript when you're in hell that tells you what levels of hell you need to go to. So it's not that you have to go through all 7 or whatever, right? And people just kind of fuck off. Like, they'll just not go through the levels of hell and go do something else or whatever. But each level of hell has its own kind of vibe, its own thing going on. So the first one is pride, and it's a massive library. And I was like, oh, fuck. I'd be screwed, right? Because in a sense, I think anyone, as I think we kind of alluded to, I don't remember if it was this episode or the first one. Oh, no, I think it was this one. But anyone who's like, I'm going to get a PhD, there's a little bit of pride in that, right?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of pridefulness in my research is research that is worth doing and that I want to keep doing. And in this level of hell, they want you to research. Was it what is the meaning of a good life? Was that what it was? Or is that just the UF course?
That's the UF course, the good life. The people who designed that course should spend some time in pride.
But pretty much what it is they have to do a keyword essay. But they have all the world's, like, research materials from the dawn of time in this library. And they have to then present their keyword essay to some god to get in order to move on to the next level of hell on their transcript.
Desire, I think.
I mean, if it's on their transcript and they have to go.
Yeah, if it's on their transcript.
Which we can also come back to, because I'm like, fuck, I would also get stuck in desire, wouldn't I? But the thing that's interesting, and I think this is maybe where some people might get grumpy about the rules of this world, is that it doesn't seem like anyone actually ever does any of these things successfully. So there's no real rules about how to actually do these things and move on from one level to the next. People clearly do, because there are shades in Wrath. There are shades in other places. But there's no clear way to write this keyword essay. I do think the word is, like, good or goodness or something. I don't remember. But, like, it's something something that, like, you feel intrinsically, you know what it means, but once you start researching it or once you start pulling it apart in any kind of way, it falls apart, right? But in this library that low-key seems kind of glorious, there are people, like, having breakdowns in the stacks. There are people who, like, are hoarding books. There are people who turn into statues because they can't, like, keep working and they just want to be a statue for a while. I think Aristotle was there or something, you know? So it felt so targeted to a specific kind of person, i.e. academics, i.e. me, that I don't know. I was wondering about how I would get out because I don't know. Maybe just walk out. Maybe just leave. But it was interesting.
That is one of the things that they like ask.
Yeah.
That like Alice and Peter wonder.
But it is interesting seeing Alice and Peter, who are not technically supposed to be here, how they navigate through this space and all of the different shades that are stuck here and can't even move past this first level, including someone who's kind of instilled themselves as the like librarian of the space, who, by the way, sexist, won't really acknowledge Alice, but talks to Peter exclusively because he's a Cambridge man and is trying to convince Peter to stay and help him out with the library.
Well, and also, like, going back to, like, purgatory a little bit.
Yeah.
They also run into the four student magicians who don't want to start going through hell because they don't want to lose their memory or identity of being a magician when they're reincarnated. So there's also a commentary on the prestige there of like, well, I can't get a non-academic job because then I won't be an academic.
Right.
What is the meaning in life if I am not an academic?
But you're dead.
Yeah. But I won't be a magician anymore.
Right, but holding on to that prestige. Yeah. I don't know. I think overall thinking about hell as a university was really fascinating. Were there any levels of hell that really stood out to you?
I mean, I think the one that stood out to me the most was the last layer of hell for betrayers.
Oh, okay.
Because it was just particularly, I think, striking that, like, and it's not like your sort of casual betrayal, but betrayal in very meaningful relationships, like a parent of a child or a teacher of their student. And that just made me, especially like being sort of all in on Alice's relationship with Grimes and how much she trusted him in a way that he did not deserve or earn. That is, including that as a level of betrayal, I think was very sort of pointed and profound, like the kind of betrayal that puts you in the lowest level of hell.
Yeah.
Like, that is the greatest sin.
Was that the one that was just sand?
Oh, that's the one where they have to write a dissertation on their life.
Oh, I thought no, that wasn't betrayers. That was the city of the dead. So that was
that's in the last level of hell. To get to dis.
I'd read dis as its own separate thing.
Oh, I thought it was part of that level of hell.
No, so I read that there was the space for the betrayers that was this kind of like sand wasteland with skulls in it and other weird things. But then people who just kind of like fucked off and weren't going through the cycle in the same way went to dis to write their dissertations, and they were like building it out and building it up. It didn't seem like that was just a place for betrayers, which is interesting. There are maps. There were maps in the back. We could look at the map. But
you want me to look?
Oh, if you want, yeah. Because I also thought dis was fascinating. Because what the people, the shades of dis, think is that you have to write a dissertation about all the bad things you did in your life. And if your dissertation is accepted, you can ascend. And... which, like, Jesus Lord.
Yeah, the city of Dis is drawn on all the maps as the 8th court.
Oh, it is the 8th court? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I thought that sometimes people just went there when they weren't, like, journeying through anymore. I thought it was more another trap, if that makes sense.
I've read, I mean, it is a trap, and there is the sense that nobody ever has their dissertation accepted. So, like, that isn't actually the way to get out.
Yeah.
Or like, get to, like, be judged by Lord Yama. But, like, or Hades or whichever iteration of the god of the underworld you prefer. It's because they were writing a dissertation about their sin of betrayal.
I see. Okay. Then I had misread that. But I appreciate you looking at the maps.
And it is, like, just a piece of the 8th court.
Right.
So, like, there is also, like, when Alice leaves and gets lost in hell, she is still lost in the 8th court.
Right. There's a really interesting moment in dis when there's a writing group of all these people working on their dissertations. And one guy is supposed to be writing about how he was, like, terrible to his wife. But they're all kind of critiquing. They're like, yeah, but, like, you keep calling her all kinds of terrible names or whatever.
You're just writing about why you were right to be that way.
He's like, because I was right. And it's like, see, this is why you're stuck here, bro. You're not listening to your writing group. But yeah, I think that area was also particularly interesting because of all of the different ways they tried to trap you in the writing process. Felt similar to like all of the tricks and tips for actually writing a dissertation as well.
Yeah. The only good advice I ever got is that a good dissertation is a done dissertation.
Yep.
I also got other good advice,
Well,
but there is so much advice.
That's not good advice. And there was also a demon that was willing to write your dissertation for you in order to help you pass. But, that they don't really have a good success rate because no one's ever left. And also because shades really don't feel things, if I remember correctly. They like when Cerberus comes and like breaks down the wall and starts tearing people apart because it's exciting for them to do something different than just work on their dissertations all the time.
Yeah, feeling pain is better than feeling nothing.
Oof.
Oof. Ouch.
Yeah. That was a big oof. All right. Well,
anyway.
So did you not think about where you would get stuck in academic hell? Was it just a me thing?
No, I didn't really think about it.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
I don't know. I was just along for the ride.
Okay.
Well, also, like, it is interesting that, like, I think it was interesting that as they kept going through each level of hell, Alice kept being like, no, Grimes isn't here. Grimes wouldn't be in Pride. Grimes wouldn't be in Desire. Grimes wouldn't be in whatever. And Peter was like, no, it's like you think he's so perfect. Why do you think he wouldn't be here? Why do you think this isn't him?
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually because Alice thought Grimes was perfect. It's because she thought he was the worst.
Right. Do you have anything else you want to say about hell as a university?
Mostly that I think that the ways that some reviewers are critiquing it for not being good world building or not just not good, but like not thorough or not imaginative world building are more specifically Kuang mirroring and commenting on Dante's Inferno, basically, and other myths of journeys to hell. Like, it's a very, very clever world building, not a lazy one.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Even the ways in which it appears lazy are very pointed.
And on purpose. I've said this a couple times, but I think this is a really purposeful novel. The rocks are there for a reason, so to speak. And scene. I think we should break there.
Yeah, so we thought this would just be one spoiler-filled episode, but we lied.
Yep, to ourselves.
And because of that, also maybe briefly to you.
Sorry
about that.
We didn't mean it. It wasn't like a purposeful lie.
Anyway, keep your eyes peeled for the last episode in our Katabasis series where we finally will talk about consent.
It's worth the wait, I promise. But in the meantime, you can find us at Sex Love Lit Podcast on Blue Sky, Tumblr, and Instagram. Also, can I shout out to our Tumblr followers because
sure
they be putting in work. I'm like, oh wow, people are liking our posts from a year ago. Cool. Also,
I mean, I feel like so the post that gets the most likes, I think, is my beginner list to K-dramas. So I think people go into the K-drama hashtags and are like, I have watched Crash Landing on You. What do I do? And then they find it, and then I guess they hopefully find it helpful.
Yeah, so shout out to them. Shout out to you for being so helpful in K-drama land on Tumblr, Corinne.
I will always be ready to give K-drama recs and also C-drama recs.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. If you need a recommendation, you can find us on Tumblr, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Sex Love Lit Podcast. And we will see you on our next Katabasis episode to wrap up this, I don't know, do we want to call it a, what's the word I want? Not fevered.
Fevered? I would say scintillating, but I don't know if that's true.
Energetic we can go with. I think scintillating is true. I was just more like we're deep in our feelings. But yeah, our scintillating, energetic conversation. So
with maybe a bit of fever.
just a little bit. But all right. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.